with the halving upon us, what's going to happen with the Bitcoin price? Is the bottom in? And what about some of the Bitcoin proxies, especially Bitcoin miners? That's what we're going to take a look at today on Crypto Intel. My name is Max. Let's get started. So what I'd like to do first is let's just zoom out a bit and take a look at where we are with the Bitcoin price as we approach the halving today. And you can see that I'm on the monthly chart here. You can see that we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months of uptrend in the Bitcoin price. And that typically warrants a month of downtrend. And you can see that in April here, we are down a bit, but we are still, if we look in, say, the weekly, let's just take a look at the weekly, you can still see that we are in a parabolic uptrend. And as long as the price doesn't dip below this parabolic trend line, and again, this is something that is a little bit arbitrary, but it can give us a flavor for where we are in the cycle. You see, what happens is that we have an uptrend, we come in and touch near the parabolic trend line, we have another uptrend, go sideways, touch again, uptrend, go sideways, and touch again. And this is the 1, 2, third one. We have one more. And this parabolic trend usually denotes that we are moving quite quickly. It looks like we could go a little bit lower. We could come down and you see all these wicks here. We could fill these in, come down a little bit below 60. It is possible that we break this parabolic trend and go into the mid to low 50s. That's a possibility, but I would say that's probably about a 20% probability, and I would think about an 80% probability that we do move higher from here after another week or two of sideways, maybe a little bit of a dip. And this is what we've usually seen when we look at the halvings. And you can see here, what I have here is the red line are the halvings, and you can see in the previous halving, the one in 2020, right after the halving, we basically went sideways for about a month or two, and then we started up, had a little bit of a dip, and then parabolic move again. If we go back to the halving in the 2016, 2017, you can see here we had a little bit of a dip, and it's not really that much. You can see that, let me make this bigger here. Okay, here. You can see that right after the halving, we dipped, about 20%. We had a wick a little bit lower, but just the closing price was about 20% dip, and then the parabolic run. And if we go back to the halving in 2011, you can see again that really the same thing, maybe a little bit of a dip right here, but really parabolic run, a dip, parabolic run. So in general, what we can see is that when the halving occurs, there is usually either a sideways or a run up. You can see here, let's get this out of the way. You can see a run up before the halving. You can see here a run up before the halving. And you can see here the same thing, a run up before the halving. Now we're going sideways. So in general, the halving itself is a kind of, non-item. Nothing really happens right on the halving day like today. It might go sideways a bit, might dip a little bit lower, but we're just starting the parabolic run. And you can see that in all the halvings before, there's a big run up after the halving. Depending on the time frame, it happens relatively quickly within just a few months, and then we have the big run up. So that's what I'm seeing with the halving and where we are with the Bitcoin price today. Now, one of the things that I think is important to look at is some of the proxies for Bitcoin. And today what I want to focus on mostly is some of the miners. So let's take a look at the Bitcoin miners and see where we're at with them, because miners are going to be a mixed bag. Some miners are going to do quite well after the halving. And you know that the halving is that the amount of Bitcoin that gets generated in the blockchain gets cut in half. And so miners that are the most efficient, have the best price for electricity, have the latest mining equipment, they're the ones that are going to benefit the most. And there's a few miners, I'm not going to go into real detail, but there's a few miners that really are poised to have good runs after the halving. One is CleanSpark, one is Bitfarms, one is Riot. These are a couple that I'd like to take a look at today. So let's take a look at the miners. First, in CleanSpark, and I want to go on to the daily here. We can see with CleanSpark, which I think is probably one of the best miners in terms of its ability to capitalize on the halving event and grow going forward. CleanSpark had a nice dip here. It looked like from the high to the lows, it was about a 40% dip. That's kind of to be expected when Bitcoin has a 20% dip, which it has. The miners are going to about double that. And now you see it's climbing up. A good time to get into CleanSpark was here at around $16. Right now, I don't think I would get into CleanSpark, but if it does turn around, and Bitcoin has another little dip after the halving here, and it does touch back into this $16 area, that would be a nice risk to reward, because what you'll see is about an 8 or 9% risk here, and a nice 50% reward. So it's a 6 or 7% to 1, 6 or 7 to 1 ratio. So that's what I would do with CleanSpark. Let's take a look at Bitfarms. Bitfarms again. Now this one looks like it's a little bit more ready to take a trade on. You see it dipped on this dip here, again about 60%, a little bit more, and it is starting to creep back up. Now I have a trend line right here. I think if it breaks this trend line here at $2, around $2, nice even number, this might be a good place to get in. And you can see there's a lot of upside there. Just to regain, that's like an 80% reward. And if we go back down and we go to the low, that's about a 20%. So that's about a 4 to 1 right there on Bitfarms. And I think that might be a good place to enter around the $2 level. And then finally, I want to take a look at, two more. Marathon, which is one of the bigger miners out there. And it looks really similar to Bitfarm. If it does, let me just lower this, because I think right about here might be a better, it's getting close. Again, you see, if it does get to this 17.5 roughly level, your risk is about 20%. But your reward is about 80%. So again, that's a 4 to 1 risk to reward. So Marathon, the same as Bitfarms. And then finally, Riot, another good miner. Now this one just broke through it. Again, you can look at this. It had a dip about 60%, just like the other ones. And now you see it's basically, it dipped below this big long trend line here with a lot of touches. And now it's peaking above. This might be a good place to enter. If we do place our risk to reward right here where it is now, you can put that a little bit low. You see you have about a 17% risk, and the first take profit I would put right at the local high here, and again that's about a 6 to 1 profit to loss ratio. So those are 3 or 4 of the miners that I think are poised to do well after the halving. And I think I would probably wait a couple days just to see when the halving actually occurs, if that affects the miner price. But there's a couple of trade setups here that you might want to take a look at. So that's all we have for today. If you like the content, please give us a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.